As a busy school leader, I rely on my iPad to capture all of the teaching and learning at our school. I move around classrooms, capturing snapshots of great work, inputting ideas and commendations, sharing same-day supportive feedback without having to write reports. I spotlight the best learning, using tagged photos to promote great teaching, to celebrate success, and to demonstrate impact. With my leadership dashboard, all of my work is in one place. I can view all of my teaching and learning with analysis, curriculum gallery, and reports, with AI summaries to save time. And at the end of another busy day, I can leave the school feeling secure about standards in the classroom without relying on test scores or standalone monitoring. In our school, we've redefined the humble lesson observation. In our school, we say, don't observe, capture.
Well, welcome to everybody. My name is David Mitchell, or Deputy Mitchell if you are on the socials. I'm a former head teacher of a couple of schools in the northwest of England, been working as a school improvement partner with schools all over the world for the last 15 years or so, and working with Nautilus as well now, and thoroughly enjoying life as it is. So you'll see that I'm joined by my colleague who's also called David. We do make things easy for you, so if you want to say hello, David, and tell us how you are.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and good morning, David. I'm very well. We don't quite have sunshine here on this side of the Pennines, but I'm optimistic. I think that's kind of the way that we're wired. I think that'll shine through in today's session, no doubt. So yes, my name's David Rushby. I'm a former head teacher, as well as a head teacher for 12 years in some very challenging schools in difficult circumstances as well. But prior to that, started my career as a teaching assistant in special education before working in resource provision. And all of my schools really that I've been involved in have had a high degree of additional needs really to cater for, and increasingly so, which is why this session really is so timely, and that's why we want to unpick things and look at some really good solutions today. More importantly as well, recently working as well, developing and creating Nautilus to help leaders to be able to evaluate using an iPad or tablet. So whilst today we'll click around in the background and kind of show you what that looks like, I guess, the most important thing is the content, the actual learning walks, how to be able to get back into the classrooms and some of the theory, I guess, behind it as well, and the key principles and design. So those are really the fundamental part. And we're working now with national groups in Wales of special needs heads and schools in England, Wales, China, Dubai, Kenya, Spain. So it's been interesting, really, that these themes, these commonalities are the same. So today, whether or not you come from mainstream, primary, secondary, AP, SEND, whatever that may be, everything that we're showing you really is about good practice and teaching and learning for children with additional needs. So I think
The pressures are the same in terms of on SEND, on ALN, on time, capacity, all those different things. So we're going to be hitting a few of those things today whilst we're talking around some of the topics and the areas that we'll be discussing, and focused on solutions, which is the one thing we're most hungry for, is actually what are the practical implications, what can we take away to take into school on Monday, and how can that make a difference to my role as a busy SEND leader in whatever school or wherever that may be. So we'll certainly hit those notes a bit later on today.
Why is this session, do you think, timely? We talked there really about preparations for September. We talked about the current situation really in schools a little bit, or alluded to it. Why do you think now is a good time to be able to rethink and to stop and review how we evaluate our additional needs in school?
Well, I think the obvious part of the answer here is just purely the time of year that we've got. When we get to this time of year, it's really good to be able to sit back, if you can, join a session like we're doing now. So, and then evaluate the ways we gather our information. And I guess the other one, the big one for me, is around capacity. things have never been tougher in the whole world of provision for SEND, ALM children, whether mainstream or otherwise. And time for leaders is a premium, for lots of different reasons, budget, monetary reasons primarily. But this is around what can we do? What can we do, David, to help leaders turn 1 hour of leadership time into the equivalent of 4 or 5 hours?
Yeah.
There are things we can do, and we know that, and we're going to talk around that and show some solutions today. But I think that is one of the key things in terms of hitting the capacity button. We can we can get a short amount of time possibly in school. How can we make the most of it? And I think that's one of the key things here in terms of turning that 1 hour into the equivalent of 4 or 5 hours. So you can get all those, the admin tasks that a SEND leader or ALN leader needs to do are endless. You don't finish, you never finish that. No, we just lost David there. He'll be back in a second. We don't finish that. And as soon as you finish one round, there's another round and another round. There are meetings that it goes on and on and on, as you know, and as the people who are watching this will know as well. So it really is about capacity and moving. Can we get to a point where we're moving our SEND leaders, ALN leaders, out from that office that they may be forced into because of the demands of the job? When we speak to all our SEND leaders, they don't want to be in the office. They want to be out, sharing that good practice, supporting their teachers, supporting their additional adults with the techniques, with all the different things they can offer. So that's primarily, I think, where we could be going with this in terms of the key word being capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, David. I mean, I just popped in there about being class-based because I think sometimes that's the other thing is how much time do you get? So how viable is this? And if it means that the only way to do the job is to extend the day, we're back to that question, which we talk about an awful lot, which is all about how, do teachers value their time? We know that they're willing to do it, but what's that threshold? Because in the long term, sustainable leadership, effective, healthy, sustainable leadership is the challenge. And I think that's the thing that I found as a head. So I was finding really having sort of attended meetings and we'd open the doors and become inclusive, if you like, so that we had higher needs, children with higher needs coming into the school. But I also felt as well, I was reading the documentation and feeling inadequate, if anything, really. I didn't feel like I had the medical understanding to appreciate the full needs of these children. And I think that's the thing that we've realized. It's like a lot of things, you make a change to how we do things, i.e. admissions, and we say, every child can go to the local school, which is a great thing. But what we've failed to appreciate at the time, or to acknowledge, and a lack of a shortfall in insight, really, in policy, is that the curriculum that we're offering is narrow, and it looks like this. And then we've got children coming in with needs that look like this. And that is a very difficult situation, really, to accommodate, because you can fund your way out of this problem, I don't think. And also you can't differentiate a curriculum that looks like that as a mainstream teacher, 10, 15 times potentially for that range of needs. So there's a real kind of tension around those things. And I think that then the problem then is that gets funneled back to the SENCO or the ALN leader, doesn't it? They're the ones who ended up, and that's where I think it can be quite sort of, we have to look at healthy leadership, because from my experience as a head of bringing somebody into post who was very talented and very capable, I could soon see them feeling a little bit disheartened about how this system was playing out. And I think that's the thing. How can we then revisit this so that this is not, and you've said this before, David, it's not the responsibility of one person, it's the responsibility of everybody. I mean, ultimately, it's the head teacher's responsibility, but how can we ensure and build that capacity across the shop floor? And I think that's really key to what we're going to look at today. So, you know, I think there's a lot of interesting things at play here, and we'll unpick them a little bit more as we move along, as well as looking at those solutions.
I'll pick up on the point you were saying about responsibility, because just whilst you're moving things across,
Yeah.
I'll go back 28 years. I went to my second role as a teacher, had an amazing kind of a consultant head teacher that came in to take control of the school due to one or two things. And one of the first things she said to me privately in a conversation, she was meeting all the teachers, was, I just need you to remember at all times, David, the 30 children in your class, they're all your responsibility. And we were moving from a culture of where the SEND leader, or SEN as it was then, would write the IEPs and deliver them to you to say, this is the provision of this child, and you'd read it and think, okay, but then you'd carry on doing what you were doing, probably in real terms, to a situation where there was a much more collaborative approach with meetings about what's best for that child, the way it should be.
Yeah.
And that responsibility was my responsibility. Yes, the head teacher had ultimate corporate responsibility, as did the SEND leader, but actually it was the responsibility of the teacher. And I've not met a SEND leader yet who isn't trying to or moving to that system where we've got the teachers who are proactive in delivering the curriculum, but also evaluating and assessing how their SEND children are progressing across. And it's not the responsibility of the SEND leader to do that.
Yeah.
It's everybody's. And so I think that's, with that in mind, I always come back to that, David, that in the back of my head, that's the model that I think is the most successful model in schools, how we can facilitate that. And I think what we're looking at now is the how, and how we're going to do that as a team.
That needs to be really explicit and agreed and understood by everyone, doesn't it? That's the thing. It's and I think that gets lost. You're right about the IEP. The amount of times we stood in front of the staff talking about what a good IEP looks like. It was so anyway, what I've done here really is I'm going to do 4 visits. So I've just really set up here, a SEND evaluation and feedback. We've got an ALN one on the system as well, so it's an equivalent. It's just the terminology, that one role that changes. That's the content is the same. But here, this is me as the Senko, so Jules Verne, and I'm going to go see 4 teachers. Each visit is going to be about 10 or 15 minutes, and that's the first thing really to establish. So I'm going to use an iPad, I'm going to go into the classroom, and then I'm going to evaluate, provide feedback, and capture the progress that's taking place. 4 teachers, and you may think, right, okay, well, normally an observation is an hour. But what we want to do is we want to build up a picture over time. So we're going to go see the whole school, and we're going to see all the staff, and we're probably going to do it 3 times a year. So 3 times a year, we go see all the teachers, everybody gets some feedback, and then we build up this data set in the background. We build up this picture. So we can see nice and clear, the strengths and areas for development across the whole provision. So that's the key thing. But the other thing about a 10-minute visit is that arguably it's achievable, because it's about getting to know your teachers. In an hour, those observations that you do where you're writing a big long report, most of it is commentary. In actual fact, what we want to do is identify what the teachers do well, provide recognition, so it's a positive experience, and then also make some suggestions and some recommendations as where needs be. So I'll show you how that's structured so we can do that. But I would say 10 minutes. Most of the time you can get enough to be able to give them a couple of recommendations, provide some recognition at the same time. And that's how you build the picture over time. Don't be fooled by thinking we need to bookend lessons, start to finish, for it to be accurate. The likelihood is the longer you spend in the classroom, the higher you raise the stakes and the less accurate it becomes. And that's the problem. That's the game that we've played with appraisals and things like that. So it's interesting how those dynamics work. And again, I will be sharing that with the staff. I'm in for 10 minutes. I'm here to help you. I'm going to give you this, this, and this, and this. It's kind of, that's how it's going to work. Okay, so once we set it up and I've assigned those to myself, I'm then going to head across, log in on my iPad, and we've got, this is for all leadership. We're looking at SEND today. Last week we were looking at subject leadership, and and with the curriculum for Wales as well. We're looking at that too, which is incorporated in the system. But you can see there, those are my 4 visits that have been popped into my to-do column. Now, I could do this with 2 people, so we could do it again with 2 iPads or tablets because it's cloud-based. So I could do it with my colleague from the school down the road. So where you're working in groups, and you've formed partnerships, I think SEND and ALN leaders are probably the ones that get the most from those connections. So invite them in, do one together, get that validation in the same way you can do it with your learning partners or those kind of things, your external partners too. So I'm going to pop in here to see Gloria. And then what we're going to get initially at first glance really is just a very simple kind of framework. And what this is designed to do is to guide. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to dictate. We don't want to kind of have a descriptor that says to the teacher, you've got to do all of these things while I'm in the classroom for these 10 minutes. That's another problem that we have when we develop and design learning walks, is that we have all of this content. And what it means is that you have to spend longer in the class to seek and validate those things. So we distill it, we make it as short as possible, and we create lines of inquiry and then prompts. We then share that with the staff so it's clear, and also talk about the fact that it's developmental. But at the same time, more importantly, what we're also doing is we're getting data. So the joy of this is that whilst we're using a rubric, that's building up a strategic picture in the background. That's giving us data, strengths and areas for development for the whole school. We're going to get feedback for our staff. We're going to take pictures. And that's where this whole thing, in a 10-minute visit, we're getting an awful lot of insight. So let's take a little look at each line of inquiry and how it's been designed. We use the terms prioritize, develop, effective, and highly effective. The reason why we use those terms is we want to do one of 2 things. We either want to give recognition and share good practice and give positive feedback about what a teacher's doing, or alternatively, what we want to do is we want to create a chance to collaborate, to share advice, to give feedback. And it's okay. I think the other thing, this is not for pay or career stage. So it's not pass or fail. And we need to agree, really, there's going to be differences in skill sets. So most of the teaching we're going to see is going to be effective because most of teaching is good. This is not about competency. But let's say that we've got a child who's just arrived with high needs, and therefore this is challenging for the teacher. Then it's okay to acknowledge and hold your hand up and say that we need some points for development, and we'd appreciate that support. That doesn't mean we're failing. That doesn't mean we're not going to go through the pay scale. We have to be transparent about this. Let's not forget that child could turn up tomorrow. It could be somebody who was previously excluded, and it's not easy. And you might have that child for a year, and then they move on, and then a child with a completely different condition comes through the door, and then you've got them for that year, and you've got to kind of so we have to be realistic. And if we frame it in a way where it's developmental, i.e. here you can see area for development, then it's an invitation to collaborate, in my view. And we have to kind of be clear about that in the staff room so that they don't think this is me who can't teach. It's not a judgment at all. With the terminology that we're using is carefully chosen, but to acknowledge the fact that we're all learning, and that's really important. Sometimes we'll have areas where it is a priority, but rather than have that teacher knock on the door saying, tearing the hair out, I can't cope, we're in the classroom here, we're acknowledging this, and we're able to kind of provide some thoughts and views to be able to support them. But more often than not, we'll see some really good practice, and it will be effective. So the first thing we're doing is looking at the setting. So here you can see that we're evaluating the setting, and where the pupil sits, the kind of needs that they've got, the access to the curriculum. It makes sort of pretty easy sort of sense. I think it's self-explanatory, but that's the first glance. When you walk into the room, those are things that, 1 or 2 sentences in there, it's dead simple. For example, let's have a little look. Let's use the voice type to try to do this. I love the relationships that you have with the children, full stop. some of the children would benefit from sitting in a different place or having the correct resources to help them learn, full stop. Okay, so just using the voice type. So this is, again, when we're talking about efficiency, when we were developing these tools, the priority was to be able to, how can we do this? How can we make it more efficient? How can we make it more efficient, more efficient? Well, we know that reporting is time consuming, and more often than not, that's the biggest challenge to kind of getting the feedback out there and therefore the impact. So what we can do is we can use the button there. We could pop in our thoughts, 1 or 2 sentences. I'm suggesting, yes, it's effective. I love the way you do this, but try this. So again, it's acknowledging that there's a spectrum and there's still an opportunity to share an idea. That's why we're using next steps, not targets, not AFIs. We're not going to go down that road because I'm not their line manager. I'm not there to tell them that they need to pass this target, they need to achieve this. I'm sharing a next step. It's developmental. So that's the terminology that we're using. David, do you think the voice type, I mean, it should be something really that we can integrate into our day-to-day leadership fairly simply, shouldn't it?
Well, it should. I mean, we're talking, if you're of an age of myself and David's age-ish, we're in a different world now. It's, people do have a device, whatever, if it's a small one or a big one, and they will quite easily you'll see people talking into the phones. It might be AI discussions, it might be prompts or whatever, but people do it. It's been proved to be 11 times quicker, David, to voice type than actually type. 11 times quicker. And we might feel a bit self-conscious doing it, but we shouldn't. And the quality of what we've got on offer is great. Gone are the days of dragon dictation and a fuzzy microphone that hisses and crunches every time you move it. But you can take your iPad in a busy early years classroom or a busy special needs setting, and you can put your microphone to your mouth and talk quietly, and it will pick everything up perfectly. Yep. Try it. That's my only encouragement to everybody, is to give it a go.
Yeah.
Because once you've done it, there'll be no turning back. And I don't think you don't feel self-conscious anymore. It just works, and it's accurate, and will save you. Well, it's 11 times quicker.
I think it's more than that. I think the process itself, David, but in actual fact, the good thing is that there's no reporting to do. And we talked about the administration and the burden with that. So what we can do is that I'll show you how we can email that directly, so there is no reporting to do. Okay, so we've looked at the setting. So we walk into the room, we look at the setting, we look at the seating, we look at the board, all of those kind of logistical things. Those are the first things that we want to be able to evaluate. Then we want to evaluate the curriculum, so the actual content. So what is the lesson content look like? Is that accessible and engaging for the pupils with additional needs? So that's what we can, there's a flow to this. And here we can, obviously, you can see how we set that up. And you'll notice again, nice, short, punchy, concise evaluations. And the other thing that you'll notice is that there's only 5 areas, because the more areas that you look at, the longer you've got to spend in the class, the bigger the job becomes. So again, similarly, what we're going to do is keep this nice and concise. So once we've looked at the curriculum itself, the lesson, so let's take a little look at this, and potentially looking at the pedagogy, what strategies the teacher is using to be able to deliver that teaching. We could look at the planning, lots of things we could look at, but we don't want to create a checklist. What we want to do is evaluate the impact. And then we look at the personalized learning. So in old money, this was the differentiation. So here we're looking to see, for those pupils with additional needs, how has this task been made accessible so that we can ensure progress. So adjusted, personalized, differentiate, call it what you like. It's up to you, as long as everybody has the same common language and everybody understands what we're looking for. That's the most important thing. So here we're looking at those strategies. I think if, when we talk to the schools that we're working with in Wales, the SEND schools, the ALN schools, I think it's really interesting that this is still applicable. because it's always about, here's the curriculum, how do I break that down effectively for each child within that class? So it's the same thing, isn't it? And that skill is fairly kind of infinite. I think it's, that's really where we're going to be able to kind of get some success. So let's take a little look at that. Let's think about pupil support. So we invest a lot of time and money in our support. So adult direct or indirect, really, in the classroom. So here we're looking at that team of people, I guess, and trying to evaluate the impact of what they do and how the teachers work with and support, and the dynamics between the two people potentially there as well. So there's some interesting things there to think about, and we can also look at how you can evaluate for teaching assistants and learning support as well. We can take a quick look at that today too. So the pupil support, direct or indirect, and then progress. Now you'll see here that we've put a little disclaimer in from individual starting points. So when we talk about progress, I think it's good to use the term progress, because if there is progress for children with additional needs, that's incredibly reassuring for a teacher. When the progress stops, that's when the knock on the door will occur. So we want to ensure that all progress, albeit relative, is acknowledged. And I think that making that explicit from individual starting points, because sometimes the progress is, it appears minimal and a teacher can be disheartened, but it's really important that we can say, actually, that's great. Look at first page to last page. And I would be looking, when it comes to progress, not at test scores necessarily. I'd be looking at that first page, looking at that last page and saying, you did this, to that teacher. I think that's really important to be able to take that opportunity. So we're getting data here and we're building up that picture on our dashboard. We're getting feedback, and I'm going to show you how we can share that the same day. We can also jot there too. But what takes this way beyond any kind of an observation, if you like, is the use of photography. So once we start now in the classroom to take pictures, we're starting to get some really significant kind of opportunities to be able to share good practice. David, over to you really around the photography, because I know that it's a feature that you think and a tool, whether or not, again, you're in the classroom with an iPad or however you're documenting this, there's definitely, it's not just about evidence, is it? It's much more than that.
It is, and never has it been more appropriate than in the role of SEND or ALN to have that quick access to gathering accurate evidence, because we need it at the end of the day, and more so within this role, because quite often the evidence will not be test scores. There won't be that as a backup or as a backstop in terms of how children are progressing. So to be able to get a portfolio together for certain children or for certain aspects of your curriculum for certain groups of children is really important. So what David's done here, he's whenever you're on Nautilus and you're doing a learning walk or a book study or any form that you're using at all, you always have the option to take some images or video. And you can, select toggle camera, which will load up a live camera, or you can use the pictures, go into camera roll if you want to. But you can whilst you're in the classroom, there and then start to gather that evidence. Really, David, that helps with all those admin tasks we were looking at before. If we can combine a few at the same time, we are looking at saving some time here, that you're not having another admin task to do if you can do it at the point in which you're in the classroom. So David's toggled his camera on. Obviously, his camera's not live because it's being used for this webinar, but he's able to tag his image. And the tagging is really important because it allows you as a leader in your school to be totally flexible about how you are labeling this. Normally, when we take images, they end up on the server. And we call the server, we call it the hospice for evidence. It'll go there, it will end up in a folder on T drive, into multiple folders deep, and no one will ever see it apart from you, rarely, but it'll be there. You'll know where it is, but no one else will. But David has tagged this image, English, Year 5, writing, sentence, capital letters, send, ALN, FSM. And what that is doing is labeling that image. So when it goes to the central gallery, and there's something important when I say that, the central gallery, we'll show you that in a little bit. It's there to be used and can be searched. It can be searched because it's in the English portfolio. It'll be in the Year 5 portfolio. It will also be in the writing portfolio. It'll be in the SEND. You can see how that then works, and you have total flexibility of that using tags. And if you want to add a comment, you can add a little bit of contextual information should you wish. You don't always have to, but it's there. And as soon as you upload it, it will go into that gallery and be used by not just you, but anybody. And we'll show how that works in a few minutes when we come to the gallery, because this really also helps bring SEND, ALN into the responsibility of everybody. And we can all, as a team, contribute to that picture so that it's not just the responsibility of that leader, but every class teacher's responsibility. And we'll show you how to do that when we look at the gallery. But it's a game changer for me, David, not only photos, but the videos, but just to be able to add some context to individual children, I think is a key thing, which has been missing.
Great, David. Thanks. So we'll come back and take a little look at where those pictures go, but just showing you the video there takes 20-second clips, so really focused, so you don't end up with an hour and a half's performance and a wobbly camera. What you've got here is a child reading, and it's tagged with those areas, of achievement to spotlight. As well as age and so on, and those kind of things, year group, whatever. Any characteristics that you can put in. Phonics would be the same. Dance, drama, PE, languages. I guess one thing we talk about when it comes down to broad and balanced is that we tend to then evaluate English and maths. So that was a bad example when I was putting on the screen there, because I was doing writing, which is sort of fairly typical, when it could have been a painting, a print and things like that, or it could have been a video of a child doing, some PE. So those are the things within your curriculum, and the fact that you are inclusive and have a broad and balanced curriculum that you're then able to pay due diligence to. And I think that's the key thing. And so we've got the curriculum for Wales in here as well. So we've got the 6 areas of learning and experience that you can set up and tag, and those include those things as well as leadership for those areas too, for subject leaders. So you can cross-reference all of those things on the system. So we're going to put that into the database. And we'll take a little look at the feedback now. So just thinking about that, I've got my 3 visits left. They don't expire, so I could do them over 2 weeks and pop in as and when I need to do, like I say, a 10-minute, 15-minute visit, as long as it takes to be able to kind of complete that form, which is not a long, that's why it's concise. And that means it's not also subject specific. So it doesn't matter if I walk in and it's in English, maths, whatever, because I'm looking at the strategies the teachers use to make the learning inclusive. So it's like, it's such a, and again, I just think it's really important that we're explicit about these things when we're talking to the staff, so that they're fully involved and supportive in this. So I've got my 3 visits left, and like I say, I'm going to do them over the next couple of weeks, and I would do this process whole school 3 times a year. Down here in my complete column, that one visit that I've just done to see Gloria has been completed. I can edit it if I want to do so. It's not finite, but I can also just email it to her. So if I just want to sort of have the visit and then send through the feedback, because let's not forget, I don't always have to sit down. It's nice if you can, but most of the time with staff, like I say, this is great, this is great, this is great, and try this, so most of the time it's not about failure, competency, it's about developing skill sets. If you want to have a chat, great, max impact, I guess, potentially. But in actual fact, being able to kind of just impart that insight is important. That's what the reports look like. They're not judgmental. There's no pass or fail. There's no gradings on there or anything else. What we're getting is the teacher is receiving that context, that framework. So we're underpinning those expectations, those key lines of inquiry, along with some very concise feedback. And I think then they can use that for the appraisals or whatever they want to be able to do. But most importantly, they've got that instantly, and it validates the process. There is nothing worse than doing a learning walk or a lesson visit and getting feedback either late in the week or 2 weeks later, or just generalized, thanks very much, it was really great, you're all doing a good job feedback. This, as a Senko, as a leader, enables me to say to the staff that what you're doing is valid, and we value your contribution. I just think that's what teachers thrive on, that validation, leaving the building knowing that they're playing a part. So I think that is a really great way to do it, and getting it the same day. We'll take a little look at the data in a moment, but you can see how it's been structured so everybody in the school knows what it's about when you're going into the classroom. So back here in the create area where I was setting up those activities, you could see down here I've also got an ALN one, which is the equivalent one, and so on. And I'll show you as well how we can just drop into class very quickly and perform like a work study or a book study, because those are the other part of the toolkit that quite often we use in school. But before we do that, and before we look at any surveys as well, let's have a little think about the data and how we can use this. So heading across to the dashboard, what we wanted to do was create a place where all of the insights are funneled into one place. So a little bit of interpretation, but I'll be as swift as I can. So my school average here, it's taking that rubric that we've got, and 1 is low, 4 is high, and it's giving me an average score for my school. That's for school improvement purposes, not for inspection. It doesn't align with the grades. In actual fact, Ofsted is the other way around. So here, what we want to do is we just want to benchmark, and that's not just what we've done with regards to additional needs. That is all of the walks that we've done for every subject and every area. And that means that we can benchmark against that. So once we start to look at any activity in here and key in some of the send walks that we've done, you can see here at the top, that snapshot there, 3.33 is slightly above. So I know if I click into here and take a closer look, I know that it's in good shape. And we're getting that little feed. So me as a head teacher, I can see what my Senko's doing, and I'm able to access that information as well. So to report to governors, to be accountable, to make strategic decisions, it's transparent. And I mean, it's really important that that conversation with the head and the Senko is accessible and ongoing. Down here, I could see what the outcomes. This is my whole school, by the way, as well as the tools that we use. If we then want to kind of learn more and we want to look at send in particular, I'm going to apply a filter in a minute, but I'm going to show you down here the AI that we added. So down here, if we want to create a summary of my recent I'm going to edit the instructions. Whoops. So down here, we added AI fairly recently. And this, I think, talking of game changers, David, I'm just going to change that default statement there just to be able to kind of get a general review of what's gone into the system with regards to send. But given that so much software that we use is typically grades, year groups, matrices, things, things where it's less, it's mainstream. It's that narrowness that I was talking about. How do you think, David, the AI can be used from a send perspective? How do you, just adding that instruction and being able to kind of access these insights from the work that we're doing within the database, how do you think that can influence and impact what we do in school?
Well, this is when we talk about AI in school, ethics is the key word that seems to comes out all the time. How can we ethically use AI? It's a perfect example, this, of having a data assistant that's going to go into all the data. And let's not beat around the bush here. This is your data. This is things you've put in. And one of the time constraint, well, one of the issues with time constraints is accessing that data, finding the correct data, because we've all done it, haven't we, when we've gone down drop-down menus and we've gone for this and that and this option, that option, then you realize you've got the wrong information, so you have to do it again. This is going to go in and pull out the information, and it's going to write it for you in a school improvement style. We know that with AI, everything with AI is only as good as the prompt, and you've got full control over that here. So we've got an example of a prompt there. You can tweak it by, like you did, you can take a bit out, add detailed summary instead of just the word summary, but it's going to find the information for you and pull it out. And what we've found with the schools we're working with on this, David, is that they use this very much as a overview in terms of, and have some of those reports backing up the overview that's giving the headlines to governors, to trustees, to a head teacher, to inspectorate systems, etc. But this is down to saving time. And right at the beginning when we talked about how can we turn 1 hour into 4 hours, well, I think this is one example of being able to do that. So you're not having to spend, I used to have to do it all the time with subject leadership, David, go in and do a report for governors, and writing it or finding the information will take the most time. Here, we know we've got the information. I can be confident that it's bringing up the correct information because it's my information and my data. And then we can use that as an overview to send through to whoever we're sending it to. But it's been broadly welcomed by the schools we're working with, and it's a really good example of AI, I think.
Yeah, I think people are just getting used to what it can do, just starting to realize, sometimes when we put it in, it's like these reports are quite basic. It's like but you can ask it. I mean, you can anonymize it. You can tailor it for your audience. And again, reporting as a Senko, as a leader, I think is a critical part of it. So no reports to write, but being well equipped because of all the work and the picture you're building. So that's the AI. Down here, I've put a filter on. So this is just my ALN in school. This is my current year, by the way. So all the work we've done down here, the learning walks and book studies and things. Down here, we've got the outcomes. So that's where it's helpful to use the matrix. And down here, you can see the evaluations that we've used as well. So I could apply the equivalent as well if I wanted to do, again, ALN. And that compares it to my school average, which remains the same, which is important. That doesn't change because we want everything to kind of be benchmarked against that, whether or not it's SEND, early years, English, maths, humanities, whatever that may be. So in here, we can look at that as well then for all time. So we can change that. And again, all time will be different to this current year. And we can see some of the work that we've done. We can click in and learn more. And then again, use the AI to be able to provide some insights. So this one, we can see each individual visit on this learning walk. We can see the headlines. We can see the outcomes over time. And that's what I mean about building up that picture for those 5 lines of inquiry that we looked at in that evaluation that you can see there. Those outcomes there tell me what it looks like forever, and so that's, and then if I hover across, I can see what it looks like on this occasion. So you'll see there, the idea is that you don't have to use drop downs. You don't have to filter. You don't have to find. You can just see it. And again, get out of the building, go home then. And these lines of inquiry here on the right-hand side, the contextual picture, this is so that it's not standalone. Most of the things that we do in school are standalone. You do them once, the data, you get a feedback, you use the data, it's expired, and then you move on. And we've got this server full of this scattering of standalone activities. Here we're building a picture which is much more comprehensive. So here you can see what it looks like on the right-hand side over all time, but on the left-hand side on this occasion, so this walk in particular. And this one here, you can see a head teacher's done this one, but we could have 2 ALNCOs, we could have 2 SENCOs, 3, whatever, doing it together. So the more contributor, we could have an external partner to help validate, and we can use Nemo again there to be able to click and find out more just from this one report. So the last one was all send. This one here, we can just find out more from here. Click in, download PDFs, use reports, take things away as well. The other thing that I think is really interesting is that we added the headlines here, and this is not for everyone, but it's really interesting to be able to kind of do this. So if I just clear this, you'll see that this is my school, and this is for a priority user. We can set this up so that you can see different things. We could set it up so that your dashboard is SEND specific or ALN or humanities or English or maths, or you can be a priority user and access everything. Because if I'm a head teacher, I'm accountable for everything. And this is where I need to know. I need to be real. I need those insights. So here I could see all of my staff If I come over here and I now filter again by send, I can then see what my Senko has captured using that framework, and I can see what the outcomes look like. So if I then start to interact with it a little bit, I can see where we might need to apply support. Now, Ernest here, you'll see there's some things to prioritize, but that's because Ernest has got a child with high needs that's just arrived. So that doesn't mean that he's not competent, can't teach, or anything else. This is to do with the context is everything, and this is for school improvement purposes. So it enables me as a head to see that, and for us to be able, and obviously my Senko can access that in the same way that we can also be able to see where the most effective teaching is, and what that looks like as well. So we could start to kind of build and use that as well, those examples. So I think the data plays a really useful part, and then you can use it however you want to do, trends over time, staff contributions. And once we start to that, we can start to use, look at the evaluations, look at any book studies that we've done, any work studies, and things like that. And we'll come back and take a little look at those, as well as the some of the surveys too in a moment, David. So I'm just going to skip across because I want to be able to kind of bring up the gallery, because I think I think that this is a highly inclusive tool, but I'll hand over to you really to elaborate on how the gallery can really not just showcase, but how it can reinforce inclusivity, I guess.
Yeah, now we did hat tip the gallery when we're looking at how to get images and videos into the system and why we might want to do that. In the gallery, that everyone has access to the gallery, there is a photo button and a video button in the top left-hand side, so you can add directly into the gallery as well. But if we look specifically at what we were talking earlier about the responsibility of everybody contributing to SEND, ALN, outcomes and evidencing that, this is a really good example. So we're in the gallery now. David has gone into the tags area and is searching for SEND or whatever tag that you have decided to evidence your additional needs evidence. So David's gone for SEND. So what he's seeing now is a catalogue, a portfolio of everything across the school this academic year that's been tagged SEND. And there are some, this is the life and soul of your school. This is where you are showcasing the outcomes that may well not be, well, certainly won't be in test scores and in data there. And, teachers, we just love looking at these pictures. I could go through for hours just, these moments that might be kind of a temporary whiteboard or a bit of paper where a child has done some phonics work, has accessed the curriculum, take a quick picture, upload it into the gallery, and your teachers may well be doing this, not you as SEND leader. So, it's a welcomed approach for leadership. But David's drilling down even further now. So we're not just looking at SEND, he's also added the tag maths. So we're looking now at not only the SEND, but all the maths tagged SEND evidence here. And again, that example of a whiteboard that's about to be rubbed out, showcasing a child that's accessing a curriculum, practical activities. And we know from working in schools with high SEND that these are the bits that you need to be evidencing, that you can't tell the story if you haven't got this type of evidence. Being able to drill down further and further, looking at different elements of SEND, all depending on the tags that you have used. David's add video now, so we can see that SEND and video. This, again, video was added fairly recently, but it's been a game changer in showcasing skill development in subjects like PE, in art, or science investigation skills and things like this. And this is this has got a limit to a 20-second clip, just so that you've got some teachers who are going to be, videoing the entire violin assembly, which is something you probably won't want to be videoing the entirety of. But you can see, and I was working with some leaders last week, David, who are making really good use of this in PE, showing skill development, a quick, at the beginning of a session on athletics, a quick few videos to show the standard of javelin throwing, for example. But then, after a few weeks of doing some lessons, showing the same children with the technique development, because they've got their hip action going, and all this, that it's showing the effectiveness of their teaching specific skills. Great for oracy, great for phonics, and things like this. So the gallery becomes a living and breathing environment that showcases the outcomes of your curriculum. And in terms of SEND, David, what I really like about this is if you're the SEND leader and you're thinking, I need some up-to-date evidence here, you could send a quick email out saying, please, everyone, next week, can you just upload 3 examples of children accessing the curriculum, or 3 examples of adults working effectively with children on the SEND register, please, that you're a passing responsibility to the teachers to do it. And you are not having to go and check. And all you need to do is go into the gallery next week, go and look. If you've said, can you tag it with your year group? Can you tag it with SEND? Can you tag it with, another keyword? You can go in and find it, and you then, you've got that evidence there. I think it just makes sense that if you've got the tools in school, we should be using something like this and making sure everyone is, I don't want to say pulling their weight, but you know what I mean, is really taking responsibility for showcasing what SEND might be looking like in their classroom.
Yeah, thanks, David. So here, I'm just going to show you a book study, because I think I'm using the click and go, so you can just click a button in the right hand corner now. So I'm going to show you what it looks like, the book study that we've got on the system. And there's a few interesting things to note, really. First of all is that I'm walking into the classroom, but I don't know what subject I'm going to see till I get in there. So I can select, can add a tag now, this is history. So that's for context, and we can create another filter. But more importantly, I used ALN here just to show how it kind of adapts. And yes, it could be humanities as well. So we can do that. But as we pick up the book, we can look at the presentation. We can evaluate the pitch. So an appropriate program of study. So we haven't put age appropriate. So again, I'll come back to that in a moment. Pupil contributions, regular and sustained application, time to secure things, the outcomes, the time to make progress, sufficient time and support, I guess. Progress, and again, it's relative progress here, so it doesn't say age related. And it says here specifically on the day towards the objective, Monday to Friday, first page to last. Challenge and extension, because there'll be times where the children need to be, their learning can be furthered. So ultimately, we're not telling you how to do that by saying do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. We're actually evaluating the impact, and the same thing down here with the marking and feedback. So what's the impact of that? And that's the application of your policy. Now, the thing that I really like about this, David, I was thinking about this morning before we were going to present it, and we'd be taking pictures as well, let's not forget, because the photo capture here, particularly at this time of year, when the books are so full of great work, I would be taking that pupil's book. I would be saying to the teacher, show me a pupil with additional needs and some good examples. I would be going through them. I would be photo, tag, build the gallery, share it. Then when the books go home, we can pop it on the board in September and say, look at that. Remember that, that's what the outcomes can look like for pupils with additional needs, particularly come July. And remember how we started and when he came in, and those kind of things. And again, you can do it for all your subjects, but we declutter the classrooms, we send everything home, and we start again. And that progress, particularly for those children who don't score in tests, they're here. You're systematically capturing it. And I think that is a really important thing as well, not just for additional needs, but for that broad and balanced curriculum that we talk about having. But the thing that I like about it, going back to this, 6 lines of inquiry, nice and simple with prompts. But the most important thing is it's not different to any other. I could use this, if you like, for the children who are working at the expected standard, or those children who don't have additional needs. So that idea that we don't create a book study for pupil with SEND, I quite like that, because it sort of says we are inclusive, doesn't it? If we're not dumbing down the book study for a pupil who is less capable, what we're actually doing is we're using the same book study. but we're applying it in a different way, because here, like I say, it doesn't refer to age appropriate. The progress is all relative, and it's not to do with test scores, it's to do with what's in the book, and it's about context. But yes, we have tagged it with additional learning needs or SEND, so that we've got that data filtered on the dashboard in a separate place. So we're using it in a different way. Different leaders are accessing it, but the framework is the same. And I don't know about you, David, but that just feels kind of really, that does feel really right, that we're starting to think that way and rewire how we do things in school. For the same reason, I'll show you the curriculum work study, because we always talk about working books. And I just mentioned the fact that this could be, and I'll put send down here, but this is art. So we're looking at a painting. And as we go in now, because we've got not everything is going to be in books. So here we can look at a painting. Is it an appropriate program of study? Is it interesting and engaging? So it aligns nicely with that lesson visit, doesn't it? Because it's about the curriculum being a good fit. An application, acquired and applied the required skills, and again, outcomes there, learning outcomes expected, and again, it's secured, and it's all relative to your setting. So it's all, there's context behind this, but again, we haven't dumbed it down. And again, I would be taking lots of pictures or pictures of this painting to highlight and spotlight best practice on the system. So I think those are two really great frameworks, which, in additional to the evaluation that we looked at really in the first session, I think in actual fact those two are like kind of your additional tools that you can use.
Yeah.
So you've got a little sort of portfolio, small toolkit, but you're able then to use it, apply it across the subjects with those tags, and build up that data set over time, David. So I think there's some really kind of profound gains from the fact that it's small, simple, concise, efficient, manageable, accurate, all of those things.
I think you're right, and I'll build on one thing there as well that we've not really mentioned, and I've got my head teacher's hat on here, is consistency. I think that's a key thing, that throughout the school the same questions are being asked at different departments in different age groups, and so the data that's coming in is consistent data. And I think that's a key thing from a head teacher's point of view, that when we are looking at the data, we do have that consistency. Oh, we just lost David there. He'll be back in a second. I'll just build on that in terms of what I was saying. If we've got obviously our SEND leader, ALN leaders asking those same questions. We've got additional other subjects and leadership. It might be your humanities, it might be English and maths early years, it might be secondary in different departments. If we are asking those same questions, then we're going to be getting more accurate data and data that we can rely on in terms of being able to showcase that to those who may be asking, whether we're having conversation with a senior leadership team, inspectorate systems, etc. It really does help. You're back, David.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. Yeah, it seemed to kind of just drop off for a moment there. Yeah, it was when I opened this one, I think just an extra tab on the browser there, but just showing how the pupil voice here, so we can deploy a quick, and here I've put ALN at the top, so you can see how we've labeled things nice and simply, so we can bring things up on the dashboard and archive them. I think the good thing about this one in particular, the pupil and the parent one that we've got down here, you can create your own, by the way, on Nautilus. Everything I've shown you today, you can edit, you can create your own, you can build your own toolkit. And the same thing with these two surveys. But the nice thing about them is that, again, it's really important as a Senko, as a leader, that we're able to kind of engage with those stakeholders in that way. So how do we make their views count? So here with those two frameworks, we're able to kind of send these out nice and quickly, or just complete them with them verbally, using an iPad, build up that picture, and it's all on the dashboard. So yes, we can see what it looks like on this occasion from this pupil, but in actual fact, we can see what it looks like over 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and build up that as well as getting that from the families. So being able to have that all on the dashboard in one place, and have the head teacher have access to that as well. So that's integrated in the school self-evaluation. There's just gains to make from how we're actually sharing the insights and utilizing those processes. And again, that's down to design and efficiency. And I would say that those two surveys are significant, really. Those are the other bit of the toolkit. These are things that schools typically do already, aren't they? I mean, we're not sharing anything here, I don't think, that is exceptional, but the methods and the approaches that we're taking into consideration and using that device in that way, as well as the database, is really the significant thing for securing that confidence and that clarity, particularly when we want to make strategic decisions. Come September, what areas are we strong at? What areas are less strong whole school? Where does the CPD need to come from? What we're targeting, and also those processes of individual feedback to develop skill sets over time. There's a lot taking place, and the database of images. I'm going to zip across to the gallery and just show the learning support one. But David, that toolkit, I just think that, again, we talked about the time of year and how we use the insights. It really is about how we utilize that insight that we're catching, that we're building up, isn't it?
It is, and I know for the schools we're working with in England and Wales, it's this time of year as well where schools are being moderated as well. So the information we do have in books and to hand has been vetted, is accurate, and possibly more so than the end of September, end of October. So it's a really good time of year to go and grab that, to go and get some of those things into the gallery, to be tagging them ready to use for next year as well, like you said. But yeah, it's a great time of year, and I know time is of a premium at this time of year. I always get lured into a false sense of security this time of year, David, where I think I've got lots of time, but then other things crop up all the time. But
Really?
it's really worth,
Yeah.
it's really worth trying to get that door closed for half an hour and grabbing some of those books and looking at some of the things we've been talking about.
Yeah. And we'll come back to that support as well that we can offer and how we can share things. I know you've posted a link there, David, but I wanted to just come to the builder here. So this is the built-in editing suite. So here you can create content. This is where we're working with groups of schools. So for example, the groups of SEND ALN schools that we've got in Wales now. In September, we're hosting meetings with that group to help them to create content and to share it as well. So here, this is one that we made for learning support, and obviously you're investing a lot of time and money into support staff. They do like to have feedback if possible, but it's very difficult to offer, certainly to any kind of quality because of time pressures. So we developed this with the support staff in a school. So we said to them, what 3 lines of inquiry could we have? We wanted 3 because we wanted to be very efficient with this one. So relationships, engagement, subject knowledge. They were selected by the support staff. We wrote the framework. Here you can see what the lines of inquiry look like. Shared it with the support staff, and then did the learning walk the same day. Myself and the head did it together, and then with feedback, and they all get an email the same day with their feedback as well. So they were involved from start to finish, and this process really validated the value that they bring to the school as well, being strategically useful as well, because we could tag SEND or ALN, and then we could filter that on the dashboard and see, right, tell us about our support. And I thought, I mean, the dividends from that are just really, we're working, those schools that we're working with, David, we've soon realized they've got sort of 150. They can be a small school, but they can have 150 staff, can't they? Which is
Last one I
impressive.
was working with, David, they were a medium school, so I think it was 230 children, but they had over 250 staff.
Yeah, it's
Size
incredible.
secondary school standard.
Yeah. So small, large, whatever, the same, different context, same challenges, I would say. So here with that one, the learning support one, we can share it and you can import it. So we've also created it so you can share between schools. And so it's very quick and simple to be able to do that. We also create content on Facebook. We don't create it on Facebook, we host it on our community, and you can download it from there. So for example, here we've got one for governors that was requested. So we made one for governors. And again, that enables us to be able to kind of get governors into the classroom. But this was an interesting one because we put some guidance on for the governors to make it really simple, really, for teachers as well to understand what their role was and to clarify that code of conduct as well. I think it's really helpful to do that. So you can see how that one's been developed and designed there too. Moving across to the settings, before we're going to come back and wrap things up, there's a couple of key things I want to finish with today, and we're getting towards that time. But just here, really, a couple more things, really, just so that if you want to have a go on the trial or anything else, you can take a look yourself, or as David's posted the demo, we're happy to show people around. We'll come back to that shortly. You can edit the terms if you want to do them differently, that's fine. You can align them with your inspectorate if you just want to download some reports and reset them back. You can save them, change color schemes. We've put variables. You know your school better than we do, so it's really important that you have the controls to make sure that this fits. Tech support same day, user guide, FAQ, tutorials on YouTube, so people know how to get the best out of the system. No problem, Debbie, at all. We kind of get the fact that school's in session. Down here as well, we've got a 360, which is an upgrade, so you can manage appraisals and upload all that content and put it onto your online. So it aligns with the work that you do rather than bookending. So you've got you know those pressure points when you're managing appraisals. So I think that's an interesting one as well.
And looking at the fact that we're freeing up time for leaders, and we know that when we talked, you mentioned it earlier about schools valuing time, we underrate our own effectiveness on time, and it's just because probably school staff tend to be fairly humble folk, and in the cutting edge world of business, people have values on time for everything, and in schools we just don't do it, and we should do a little bit more because it's really valuable and expensive. I don't know if you mentioned that to give one teacher 1 hour of leadership per week, not PPA time but leadership time, is it £1,200?
Yeah, that's what it works out. Yeah, for 1 hour. It's what and it's what you do with that time. How do you use it, isn't it?
It is, and so if we're freeing up more and more of that,
Yeah.
then cost-effective solutions are what we're
Yeah.
looking at, and we certainly believe, and the schools that we're working with tell us that as well.
Yeah, and I think it's about that flexibility and providing, really understanding how things work. One thing I will say as well is that, we're teachers, we're a small company. We work, we designed the whole platform because we understand the pressures. But once we taking it to market a few years ago, we now develop with schools. So when they say to us, what about this? So the AI, the video, all those things have come from staff, from teachers and leaders that we work with, saying the video was a good example, sharing the idea and saying it'd be great if you could do video. And it's like, right, okay, what we then had to do was think, how can we integrate it so it impacts. And so it's interesting really how the continual development of the platform, because the other half of the company is our software development, and so we were able to kind of nice and agile, we're able to develop at the same time. We're going to add a couple more things in actually. So what we're going to do is, and this one goes in 2 weeks, is you're going to be able to create your own bespoke list of subjects and your own bespoke list of roles. So it doesn't matter where you come from in the world, you can change those to suit and tailor them. Okay. So just back to those key points, I think it's worth just sort of taking a moment just to reflect on this. Sorry to feel like we're hitting the plenary now in the literacy hour, but I think it's worth sort of just really sort of going back to that reactive and proactive managing and leading, those kind of catchy little sort of references, because I do think that those are the things to take away. I do think that language that we've been using is key, and I do think those solutions, albeit whether or not it's on Nautilus, an iPad, a tablet, a piece of paper, it's about that simple process of being able to kind of get people back into the classroom, so you're able to see those children, see how they're learning, see how their journey is progressing, and see how each teacher works with them along the way. Because that's your role as a leader. It's unique, you're able to facilitate that, but you certainly can't do that if you're office-based or you're reliant on teachers knocking on your door to be able to share those insights. So this is a very proactive way of being able to work, and ultimately what we've said here is that efficiency is really at the heart of that. So, but I would apply that really to some extent in every aspect of school leadership. We've got staff where the accountability is increased and it needs to be acknowledged in the way that we work. And so that bit of time you've had today hopefully is useful for self-evaluating, how you self-evaluate, and reviewing your processes as well. I think that time's really valid.
Welcome to the Nautilus staff room. Here's 5 suggestions to help to onboard your team. Number 5. Remember that this is a process, not an event. It's all about collecting lighter touch insights over time. 4. Collaboration. Creating professional dialogue, sharing expertise, focusing on developing more effective classroom practice. Number 3. Accuracy. It's important that we can capture and evaluate business as usual for meaningful feedback. 2. Teachers thrive on recognition. Use the prompts for opportunities to share constructive feedback and professional recognition. Number 1. Know your why. Nautilus has been designed to help you to secure clarity and confidence, working together to develop skill sets and to make school leadership effective and sustainable. Visit nautilus.education for more support, hints, tips, and ideas.